I guess we're gonna get started now. Hello, welcome to Oakland Planning Development Corporation. My name is Liz Gray. I am the neighborhood quality liaison. Okay, and tonight we really have what I can call a student production for the good. Okay, I want to introduce Cindy Greenway, who is the president of the Urban Planning Club at Pitt, okay? And Neil Cahill, he is the president of Complete Streets at the University of Pittsburgh. It's up to you guys.
Awesome. We're gonna get our presentation.
Can the people on Zoom hear us right now? Someone wants to just shout out.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Are you seeing the shared screen?
Probably not. Sorry.
Yeah. 1 second.
What's a community meeting without technical difficulties?
There you
Okay.
go.
Yes, we can start with the agenda.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you all for being here. It is great to see many of you here. My name is Neil Cahill. As Liz said, I'm the president of Complete Streets of Pitt. I'm a sophomore, urban planning student at the University of Pittsburgh with a minor in English literature. And I'm just really great to see all of you here to talk about Main Street.
Hi everyone, my name is Cindy Greenway. I am also an undergraduate student at Pitt studying urban planning, and I'm the president of Urban Planning Club and super excited for today. Thank you guys all for being here.
So a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I do want an introduction about who we are as Pitt students, as Pitt members of the Pitt community and student organizations. A little bit about why we're focusing on Main Street, survey analysis, as well as the main bulk of the meeting will be a discussion. We want to hear from everyone here. Everyone has their own unique perspective on Main Street. And so hearing each of you and hearing about each of your own lived experiences and everything is really important to us. So we want to make sure that we have that. So who we are, again, we're Oakland residents and undergrad students, primarily urban studies, urban planning, poli-sci students, but there are some civil engineers, other engineers, environmental science, nursing students, anyone and anyone can be part of our groups. But specifically about Complete Streets at Pitt, we are a student organization focused on transportation safety issues and improvement projects within Oakland. We work with a number of advocacy groups across Pittsburgh, create a strong network to make the city safer for everyone. I want to shout out like Pittsburgh specifically, as a specific partner that we work with a ton. So I think for me, here at Twin Hill.
And about Urban Planning Club, we are a new student organization this year dedicated to understanding and engaging with the built environment. We provide opportunities for students to engage with the planning profession, our campus, and the Pittsburgh community. We've been having a great year this year with engaging with the community.
So a little bit about Main Street, why we're focusing on Main Street, what it is, everything like that. So our main discussion for today focuses on Bay Street between the Boulevard of the Allies and South Bay Street. This is the main bulk of what we're going to be talking about today. We're not really focusing on Bay Street south of the Boulevard, but primarily the main section of Bay Street that runs through Central. So why is Bay Street important specifically? Bay Street is the primary east-west connection through Central Oakland. This leads to a ton of traffic traveling along it every single day, both in the form of private vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, shuttles. Everyone and anyone who passes through Central Oakland passes along Bay Street. There are multiple businesses and residences along and adjacent to the street, causing hundreds of people to travel along it every single day. There's also a focus we have on the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's plan, south of the Boulevard of the Allies, down to I-706. where PennDOT has a plan to, change and edit that street. So with changes going to that side of Bay Street, why shouldn't the section that runs through the majority of central Oakland, where the majority of residences and businesses are, and we should be focusing on that as well. Also, this section of focus is entirely city of Pittsburgh owned. And so we feel that there is a increased need and desire to impact these things on a local level and get involved, with the city and ensure that this focus, is out.
So how do we know basis of law? We have experiences, our lived experiences, but we also have numbers and data to back up that basis of problem. So addressing specifically between the intersection Zulema to Bouquet, there have been 42 recorded crashes between 2019 and 2023. Of course, we know that this is an underreporting. Near misses, small accidents and taps are not going to be reflected in this data, but this is significant, like crashes that required police presence or attention. We're gonna go through each intersection.
So starting down at one end of Bates and Dilemma. Bates and Dilemma is probably the most visible problem issue along Bay Street. Dilemma Street, when it connects with Bay Street, is a super, super wide road. It takes 21 seconds for an able-bodied person, myself, to walk across that intersection. Imagining, people with mobility issues, people walking with young children, strollers, anything like that. There is problems and increased danger in crossing the street, especially considering the fact of how long this crosswalk is. Additionally, ADA ramps, for example, this middle picture here is pointing directly right into the crosswalk, into the intersection. It's not following along the crosswalk itself. It's not, pointing someone in the direction of safety. It's pointing straightly directly into the intersection, as well as this area has a lot of traffic. There are those people coming off Boulevard, there are people coming off I-376, leading to a ton of personal vehicle travel along this intersection.
The next intersection for us to touch on is the intersection of Bates and McKee. Here, we see that there is no painted crosswalk across Bates to allow pedestrians to cross safely and with markings. We also see that cars are parked in where crosswalks should be, where the ADA ramps are. And that when a car is parked in the way, the pedestrian kind of has to peek out to see. And that's not safe for anybody. It's not safe for pedestrians, and it's not fair to drivers to try to, see all of it. And Bates and McKee actually has the highest rate of incidents reported on the crash data for the city. There's been 18 accidents, and then also it's important to note that there have been incidents with bicycles and pedestrians.
Is there issues hearing us in the back? Speak up. Sure. Sure.
Thank you.
So is this a good volume for people in the back? Much better. Thank you for that. Moving down is Bates and Semple. Bates and Semple has a ton of businesses along it, and a ton of people having to cross it there specifically every single day, and interacting with personal vehicles, cyclists, everything in that nature. This is a picture of the intersection itself. It is a four-way intersection with crosswalks going all the way across Bates as well as across Semple. For a personal story from myself, when I was taking this picture, right after I took this picture, I had to cross the street at Bates Street. And as I was in the middle of the crosswalk, a car refused to stop and just blew straight past me. This is, I believe, from other people who have crossed here at Semple Street, an issue that is prevalent to a lot of people. I see people nodding their heads, agreeing with that. It is a shared experience at this intersection. And so we want to try to make this intersection as well as other intersections along Main Street much safer for pedestrians, and as well for drivers, so that, there aren't those issues where there are near misses nearly every single day.
We also want to discuss Myron, the intersection of Bates and Myron. Again, there are no crosswalks across Bates. And the ADA ramps, again, are going right into traffic rather than into the crosswalks. And further, we see that cars are parked along the street where the crosswalk would be, preventing pedestrians from being visible to drivers.
And then at Bates and Atwood, this is the one signalized intersection on Main Street. This causes most pedestrians to want to cross here because they feel the safest here. There's a red light that stops cars from moving, and makes pedestrians feel the safest when crossing here. But problems still exist at intersections like this. On this left image, the ADA ramp, again, as we've seen before, points directly out into the intersection, as well as at literally every single corner. All of the ADA ramps point out into the middle of the intersection. Right on this corner as well is Haven, which is the new music venue, leading to a ton of people being there, especially at night, to experience live music. So leading to problems with late night travel and traffic, intersecting with live music venues and problems that can create. And Bates and Atwood is the second highest crash data along Main Street, that's had 6 crashes between 2019 and 2023, with bicycles, cars, and pedestrians all being involved in each and every single one of those crashes. And moving down to Bates and Oakland, this intersection is also another strange one along Main Street. The Oakland Avenue does not perfectly bisect Bay Street perpendicularly, causing cars to have to swerve along Bay Street to continue down Oakland Avenue. This creates a lot of problems between people crossing as well as people driving down the road and along it. There are the crosswalks going across Oakland Avenue, but there are not any going over Bates. Specifically highlighting this left image over here, there is a car crossing in the middle of Bates Street, trying to go down Oakland. There is a pedestrian crossing the crosswalk. Then there are also pedestrians crossing here across Bates Street. So a high place for contact between pedestrians and personal vehicle drivers, as well as problems with visibility. Also, there is a mailbox, positioned right at the corner, causing cars to have to peek out and inch out even more in the intersection to try to see cars that are coming the opposite way in order to avoid trying to hit them. So there are visible problems here as well.
And then this is the final intersection along Bates. We see that Bates intersects with Bouquet at a T. We see that there are painted crosswalks, but that the ADA ramps point again into the middle of the intersection. And the steep hill makes it difficult for pedestrians to see cars coming and for cars to see the pedestrians involved in the intersection.
And so seeing all of these visible issues that we have found as student groups at the university, we wanted to see if other people have noticed these problems and have personally experienced it themselves. So 3.5 weeks ago, we put up flyers as well as on social media, a survey, Bay Street Safety Survey, to try to gauge public perceptions of Bay Street, public experiences of Bay Street, and try to collect some anecdotal data about what the lived experience is like traveling along Bay Street. In those 3.5 weeks, we've gathered over 185 responses on that survey. People mostly being very dissatisfied with Bay Street. And judging by the number of people who are here in this meeting tonight, I'm guessing you all have also have had at least one negative experience traveling along Bay Street. So moving on into what the survey has actually said. This is basically what we've heard. We asked a question, describe Bates in one word or a phrase. Here it is.
For those of you in the back, we see dangerous, scary, atrocious, unsafe, awful, congested, tight, dirty, always risky. So
yeah, who
keep that in mind.
What any of these words, does anyone else relate to any of these words on the screen? Just show of hands. Yeah, the vast majority of people who have traveled along Bay Street have had a negative experience of it. Dangerous, atrocious, awful, all of these things, these are things we've experienced, but it's also things other people have experienced as well. And so looking specifically at modes of transportation, we asked about walking, we asked about biking, we asked about personal driving across Bay Street. So for walking, this was the graph results from that. The mean of this results 4.16, not great. Majority of people are under 5 for the traveling, walking along and across Bay Street. That comes from crossing it, that comes from the sidewalk infrastructure improvements and everything such as that. As well, biking, a mean of 3.41, so even lower than walking. Majority of people are under 4 for their, experiences traveling along Main Street. There's issues with, there's no bike lanes on Bates, there's no, signs for slow down for bicyclists, there's no, issues such as that keep cropping up again and again all along Main Street. And finally, driving along Main Street, again, 4.68, not a positive experience of people traveling along Bay Street, whether you're driving, whether you're walking, or whether you're biking along Bay Street. It's generally not a positive experience from what we've seen from this data.
We also asked people to tell us about their experience on Beach Street, and we heard many concerning things. We heard that people were swiped on their bicycles, that they are looking for safe ways to cross, and that they can only find it in one intersection. We hear also that people are getting hit or like almost hit by intersections. We hear again that people are getting tapped, that they almost got hit, the cars never stop, and they feel like they're going to die. So this is a concerning narrative that we are hearing from many people about this street.
So what's next? We've got this survey, we've walked it ourselves. So why are we having this meeting here today, other than to show you all of this data that we've collected? We want to have a discussion with everyone in this room to hear about the problems that you've experienced, or even the positives of Bay Street, everything and anything that makes Bay Street, everything that goes into that, sharing personal experiences and stories, identifying specific problems, potential solutions. So each group, we're going to try to do it by tables. Each group is going to try to have one discussion leader and one scribe who are members of Urban Planning Club and Complete Streets. If scribes and discussion leaders just want to raise their hands. So all these people are going to be your point people. For the people on the sides, we're going to try to move around and so get you guys involved in this conversation, because it's extremely important to get you guys involved as well. And then after we do the small group discussion, we're going to move into a larger group, sharing 2 to 3 main points that each group brought up and identifying specific problems. So introductions, get to know the people around you, sitting with you, discuss your experiences, discuss specific problems, potential solutions, and then return to a whole group.
And we want to encourage you to be specific while identifying problems and solutions. Some great examples from our survey are identifying that there's no stop sign at a specific place, that the traffic light is blinking instead of working to the complete extent, that there's a mailbox that's blocking the view, that there needs to be more crosswalks. So rather, like, the goal is to identify specific things that we can implement.
So each group, talk amongst yourselves, get to know the people around you, discuss these problems that are occurring and your specific lived experiences. People on the side, me and Sydney are gonna come around and, be with you in that conversation.
Because I work, I also try. So.
Hi, everybody in the Zoom. Thank you so much for being here. We don't unfortunately have enough discussion leaders to run the Zoom chat, but I would love to hear anybody's insight or experiences that you've had along Bay Street. If you would like to share, I can take notes. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Linda. Hopefully that makes this a little bit easier. Vehicles heading west on the Boulevard of the Allies. We're trying to get onto Bates to enter I-376. Forced to head up to the red light. Grassy Island, yes. Terrible backup at Zulema and Bates. The left turn was permitted at the Boulevard. Yes, absolutely. I think that's a phenomenal suggestion. I am going to take note of that so that we can share it with the larger group.
Similarly, on the note of the congestion on Bates Street, just in general, especially during rush hour, Bates backs up all the way down to 376 in both directions, frankly. And that also ends up backing up all of the streets that go off Bates because people are trying to turn left or right onto Bates and they're unable to because there's just a backup of cars who don't allow people to turn. So either changing the queuing distance or the light timing or something, or maybe having like some four-way stops at several of the intersections,
Yeah.
could really sort of help to alleviate that backup. Because I mean, like I found like whenever I've been driving on it, when it's been backed up, or even when I've been walking in the area, anytime there's a opportunity for cars to go, even if it's because cars are trying to let someone maybe cross the street or let a car turn in, most people are not going to let them do that, and they're just going to plow ahead, not sort of look around. So that could make it a lot safer and a lot less congested.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those. Is there anyone else that would like to share? You can also please put it in the chat, if that's best.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just say that the intersection at Bates and Tolima is not safe to cross any of the ways. There's not a way that is safe at that stop there by foot. So, you know, for what that's worth, I'd like to note that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We will note that intersection as a particular concern. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and Jules, I see your chat. Back sections choice so dangerous. Cars and other vehicles. Yes, during rush hour, traffic gets stopped. It's very difficult to cross. Yeah. Be great to have a stop sign or light or something there to keep students safe. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal, is to keep students and community members, all pedestrians safe, traveling along Bates.
I also want to input bikes. There's no bike lanes on the street, and I get it's a very narrow street, but something that you could definitely do is either limit or just completely prohibit parking on one side of the street. I get that they want to have street parking, but if you take out street parking on one side, you could theoretically fit a bike lane, even a narrow bike lane, that just makes things a whole lot safer for bikes on Bates Street.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we saw that from our survey results. I believe that biking was ranked the lowest as how people rated the safety of traveling along Bates.
Yeah, I can say from personal experience that it's horrendous.
Yes, I'm sorry that you had to experience that. Crossing up the edge of the curb and you can't see anything until you're past the crosswalk. Yeah, right. Parking is necessary, but it also complicates the visibility of people on the sidewalk and in crosswalks. So absolutely. Completely agree.
Yeah, going off the point about parking authority needing to be stricter, the parking authority is really strict in a lot of places in South Oakland that it really doesn't need to be. Um, uh, like for some reason they they patrol the area around the Sunoco gas station on Boulevard of the Allies. They patrol that like super frequently and closely, but they in a lot of like it's on Bates Street. We saw the pictures of people parking in the crosswalks, and they don't really care about that at all, it seems like. So if they could be a little more selective about where they patrol.
Oh, actually, there's somebody in the waiting room, but I am not an owner on this, or not I'm not running I have to go open it on the other laptop. Okay, sorry about that. I am back. Yeah, absolutely. Parking in the crosswalk is a huge danger and unfortunately very prevalent. I see it every day. Is there anyone else that would like to share any experiences they've had, any problems that you see commonly, or any potential solutions that you think could do good on Bates? No worries. If not, I think I'm going to go check on the other groups and I will come back in a few minutes before we wrap up to touch base. Thank you guys so much for contributing. Really appreciate it. Even like being on Zoom. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am back. Sorry to those of you who joined late and weren't sure if it was over. Right now, our groups are in discussion and we are going to be wrapping up in the next 5-ish minutes. So I wanted to come back and read the comments that you've left. And then if anyone has anything that they also wanted to share, now's a great time and I can share it with the larger group. Just reading the comments right now. Yes, absolutely. I see this comment from Linda. Thank you for that insight. That is a good question, Nancy. Do you know if the street parking along Bates is permitted or if it's like city paid parking?
That's residential here.
Okay, I think it seems to be residential, like permitted parking.
Even if it is permanent parking, permit parking from the city is like $15 a year or something. It's incredibly cheap. So it's essentially it's free day to day. At least for people who live there.
Absolutely. Yeah, more about cars blocking intersections. Who's parking on this one? Oh, that's a really good question. I am not sure, but I will save the chat and hopefully get back to you on that. I think many of us are not fans of pavements. Yeah, thank you for that like detailed problem. Really appreciate it. I've heard it's a cult, like people, it has a cult following. It's on my to read list. The high cost of free parking. It's on there. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for this input. Does anyone have anything they want to share before before I go to big group?
Nothing
Yes.
other than thank you for, reading through all the comments and stuff. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is the least we could do. Okay. I'll be able to see the chat from the big one as well. So if there's anything else that you think of, just throw it in there. Thank you guys.
that means less students need to bring their cars. And then finally, beautification and traffic calming, the painting, also physical barriers and beautification being maybe community efforts to pick up trash and plants, trees, anyway.
Yeah, visibility brought up by both of you. Key thing there, dream solutions, love to see it, shoot for the moon. You know, setbacks, lack of, visibility of people across the street and everything like that. Awesome, thank you guys. Next group, which I believe was in the back here.
Oh, that's not, we're the next one. We can go to them.
Wait, yes.
That one.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, okay, that is. Yeah. So we talked a lot about, pedestrian and driver behavior. A lot of people not being educated on how they're supposed to behave on the street. And also just some very silly things like bikers going the wrong way, people crossing on their phones. So we really think that education has a big role to play in safety here. We also talked about safety, or visibility as, and the role that it plays in safety. Things like that mailbox, are some places that definitely came to mind. Bright clothing, for bikers, and also bikes need to have, the reflective lights. I know that a lot of them don't. And then also there's a lot of solutions that are, sort of on the books but not enforced. For example, the parking at corners, that would help a lot for pedestrians, but isn't really enforced. Yeah. And, yeah, really emphasizing. Yeah.
Let's go quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I've seen people get, how many people here have seen people almost get it? They're right. That problem shouldn't be a problem, and there needs to be that education, so it's very important. Thank you. Moving down, onto this one, I can't remember what you're doing.
Sure. So we talked a lot about just trying to see what solutions would help each particular group, whether it be pedestrians, cyclists, or drivers. But the top three things that we said, I cannot.
Rule following / enforcement,
Yes.
Share roads.
Share roads for cyclists to make sure that they.
The share the road signs.
Little arrows for the bikes on the road, just to make sure that the presence of cyclists is known. And then
crosswalks and intersections.
crosswalks and intersections, it's an issue. And then the other thing is trees can help slow the traffic by making the street seem narrower, and they can reduce urban heat island and make the street more beautiful.
So both, rule following, educational shift, signage kind of goes into visibility as well. So, we're all kind of seeing those same problems throughout all of these groups. So this one right here.
No, right, yeah, this one, sorry.
So we talked a lot about how there's conflicting multi-purpose use along Bay Street because there are residents commuting to work, there are students commuting to school, there are employees going to businesses along Bay Street too. And we have representatives in our group from Haven, the music venue, and the repurposed church, and then also from Grocery Amenities. And they said especially that because of Bay Street's limited space, that traffic tends to conflict with the business practices. Things like loading the groceries into the actual store or getting supplies and resources in. And something that we kind of talked about for solutions is using signage for both right-of-way verification and just general enforcement. So establishing some sort of order of who goes when, that could be so much as saying pedestrians crossing or bikes, just indicating that there's some alternative usage of the road beyond cars. And then another big issue that we discussed was the kind of accepted nature of peeking out onto Bay Street to cross, and that it's no longer a problem, that is just the way of crossing now. And when people accept that, the solutions, the problems just become nature. So, looking at solutions means addressing that is a unique place where there's high traffic, with cars, high traffic with residents, high traffic with employees, and, this should be a very like, innovative conversation, more dream solutions. We talked about, having a kind of lumped crosswalk at some point. Raised crosswalk, similar and, oh yeah.
Like sidewalk level crossing, kind of like outside of the legal learning, that was great.
Like along Bigelow, that's improved a lot of congestion, but also allowed people to cross, because it's a high traffic area.
Kind of with the peaking, you mean like standing, having to stand between cars? Okay.
Yeah, also on a bike, and when people are biking and commuting, trying to get places fast, conveniently, but also on wheels and safely, when you have to inch out like that, especially under weather conditions, when it's icy and it's a sloped road, it becomes very difficult to navigate.
And then last group in the, area, yeah.
That's us. Okay, our group sort of talked about the feasibility of just like restructuring 8th Street, because I think it's great to like think of like really wonderful ideas of like what we can turn the street into, but we have to put it in the context of like the Oakland neighborhood and the traffic into the 8th Street the way it is. So we talked about like the intersection on Bates and Boulevard of the outlets and how the constant congestion coming. It's like, oh, it just like makes it worse for drivers and pedestrians. So anyone in general, it was also mentioned like the center line on Bates, there's no center line. So it makes it really confusing for like ponds, like right of way issues. And it almost just feels like because there's no center line, it's just like, okay, this is an issue that is like outside of the city's management, so it's a thing that we also talked about the mailbox on Oakland Bates and it's like achieving visibility, for sort of the solutions, like flashing on crosswalks. Be a pretty great one, because there's some pedestrians blocking.
You mean those signs of like.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I guess the mailbox kept getting brought up, so we should have invited the post office. I love seeing all this, yeah, from the Zoom.
Yeah, I would love to share some ideas from Zoomland. We have raised crosswalks to kind of get at that same visibility aspect for pedestrians. We also have discussions of kind of rethinking the light at Bates and the Boulevard because you can't turn left. And so that kind of requires people to do crazy roundabout things. So addressing that. And then also, there were others. So we saw in some of the images that Neil took that there are lines in the street to prevent people from parking at the intersection. We thought that it might be beneficial to put something physical to prevent cars from parking in that because they don't always adhere to the lines on the street. So I thought that was a really good idea. There are more things in here that we will comb through. But that's a quick overview from you guys. Thank you.
Is anyone else from the Zoom just want to like elaborate on any of those things that Sydney brought up or other things? Totally fine if not. Okay. Love seeing all of this, all of that, everything, all of these discussions. These are amazing. Thank you all so very much. We're gonna be, thinking more about this, analyzing all this, compiling it all together, getting all of this information together, all of this data as well. And using it to show that, hey, this is a problem and that there is a need here, that people have noticed that it's, not just pedestrians, not just cyclists, not just drivers, it's everyone and anyone who travels along Main Street, has noticed these problems and has felt like that these issues exist, and everything. So really, really appreciate all of you for being here, for all of your support in this and all of your, thoughts, comments, everything, your keys. So I'm gonna try to decipher, be asking you guys about that. But yeah, truly, truly amazing. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here.
Okay, yes, and I also want to thank you for coming this evening. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm happy to tell you that the gravel pitch on Bates Street near the corner of Semple has been put into the process of being repaired. It's been sided with the city, so that will be going away. Believe me, it's been 3 weeks of trying to get it fixed. So I want to thank Neil and Sydney. I think these guys are great. If you want to hang out for a bit and chat, hang out. We still have more pizza back there and pop. Again, thank you. Please come back for the next one. We are the third Wednesday evening of the month. And I know you guys are finishing up your terms and everything. I hope some of you are going to stay around during the summer. Please visit Haven. They need our support, okay? Very important. Thank you very, very, very much.
I'm set, with like Pittsburgh, there are just 2 events coming up that are very related to walking and biking safety. On April 7th, that's a Monday, there will be a neighborhood walk. Bike Pittsburgh is doing this with youth all over the city because we are not just about biking, we are also about walking safety, pedestrian safety. And we want to just get people out in their community, like connecting with everyday destinations. They might not know that they can walk to an experience. So there's going to be a walk from the cathedral up the hill, towards, Friendship Community Church. That'll be on April 7th. Come join us. And then if you want to learn what these amazing advocates are doing and implementing in terms of the strategy for safer streets, if you want to learn the nuts and bolts of that, I'm leading a grassroots advocacy strategies for winning campaigns training on April 5th from 10 to 5 at Kingsley Association. That's like a deep dive, full day. Bring your ideas for the change you want to make in your community for safer streets. We're going to tell you how to make it happen step by step of the way. Hope to have some of you there. I'm asking me questions. We got flyers too.
Really quick. Yeah, sorry, I have one more thing too. I want to thank the guys that are online with us this evening, okay? And it's not an easy juggling act on Zoom on this kind of event and this format, but they hang in there. They've asked some really good questions and we really appreciate them participating. You have Bob Charlton, who is our local city councilman, by the way, so if you have questions, contact there. Also, Kristen Umbach from City Planning joined us this evening, which is wonderful. Great, thank you very, very much. And
Yeah, super quick. I wanted to thank all of our discussion leaders and scribes for the groups. Thank you guys so much for being here. This could not have happened without you. Also, if you're like, yes, this is so fun, I want to stay involved, here's how. We would love for you to join our campaign mailing list. This is for any updates, any future events coming up, all things Bates Street. We also have our survey up here. If you didn't have the chance to fill it out, the QR code is up here. And if you want to contact us about Bates Street or pedestrian safety in general, streets@pitt@gmail is the place to do it. That will go straight to Neil. And then also, fun opportunity. We are going to be hopefully recording like tiny mic interviews. So we'll ask just questions about your experience with Bates, anything you want to share with the city decision makers about Bates Street. We're hoping that it will be impactful for community members and for decision makers, as well as helping with social media campaigning and get the word out about Bates Street. So we can go see Sophia if you want to have your Sophia in your hand. If you want to do a little interview about your experience, we would really appreciate it. It would do a lot for the campaign. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys again so much. We will be here. Yeah.
Very good.